I think we're good. Let's get started. If people are late, I will let them in.
Fair enough.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. My name is Colleen Stovall, and I'm with the AIA Miami, and we're thrilled to be starting a great journey with Port Miami. And right now, I'd like to introduce Elizabeth Ogden. Could you introduce yourself and tell us what you're working on?
I'd love to. I'd love to. Thank you.
Mhm.
My name is Elizabeth Ogden. I am an assistant port director over the capital development program at Port Miami. I have been the pleasure of working with the port for over 15 years. And prior to that, I had about 5 years of private sector experience in New England and down here in Miami. And in addition to that, about another 15 years in Miami-Dade County with the airport, the Performing Arts Center, which is the Adrian Arts Center, with the Hope 6 program at housing. So a fair amount of public work. So very, very proud to be here at Port Miami and to be able to present to you all what's going on at the port and what's going to be going on in the future, God willing. So let me just begin with an overview. We are, goodness, forgive me. Lost my little mouse. Okay. Whoops. Okay, I think I got it. Port Miami is the second largest economic engine in Miami-Dade County. We are second to Miami International Airport. We generate 43 billion in revenue annually for the community and support 334 plus 100,000 jobs. We are an island off the Port of Miami. It's called Dodge and Loomis Island at this point, and I'll give a little bit of a history of the port over the years and how we've grown and how we've developed with our community and then with the city of Miami. But basically, to the north of the port are the cruise terminals on this side. And then to the south of the port, we've got our cargo terminals. And we have three main cargo terminals: South Florida Container Cargo, Palm Talk, and Seaboard Marine. This provides us with a varied amount of infrastructure projects, of vertical projects, from cruise terminals to office buildings to cargo warehouses, to then horizontal infrastructure projects from our tunnel to some really neat stuff that we're doing in terms of our net zero program, which is to reduce carbon emissions. So brief history, you guys can read the slides and I'll certainly I'd be pleased to share the presentation. But the port, we began back in the 1890s. We used to be known as Bicentennial Park, and now we're near Maurice Ferré Park. In the 60s, 1960 was a significant turning point for the port because we signed an agreement with the city of Miami. Originally, the city of Miami owned the land that the port was constructed upon, and we entered into an agreement with the city of Miami that Miami-Dade County would take ownership and develop the port. Part of this agreement limited our operational capacity to only maritime use. So everything on port is maritime related, whether it be the headquarters of Royal Caribbean, or of course our cruise terminals, our cargo terminals, or supporting operations to support the port. Similar to many ports in South Florida, we are shallow water. And so to become a deep water port, which was necessary for our cargo and also our cruise, but our cargo goes down to minus 52 feet. Our cruise to about minus 32 in terms of draft. We had to build our port from reclaimed dredge materials. So originally in 1979, we were dredging and putting the spoils to make Loomis and Dodge and Sam's Island. So today we're a 420-acre port, and we've been, again, developing the infrastructure ever since. We also sit in a very environmentally sensitive area in Biscayne Bay. We're next to part of the Biscayne Bay Aquatic Preserve. So all of the development that we do with the port is completed with an environmental component in mind. And we often go into mitigation projects and partner with DERM or with other agencies to mitigate any development on the islands. So what I briefly mentioned in the beginning, in the introduction, is that we do have a very vibrant and vigorous net zero and inland port planning program, implementation program. That's driving a lot of our development. It's driving a lot of our projects. It, along with our 2035 master plan, which I'll go into in some detail in terms of what we're implementing with that 2035 master plan, we're also working towards our 2050 master plan, which is incorporating some of these net zero and the inland port concept development programs that we are pursuing. Get this out. No. Trying to get off the screen. Can you all see this? The sidebar? It's kind of distracting. Well, I hope you can. Okay. So one of the main cornerstones of our net zero program that's being implemented right now is our shore power phase 1. It began as a pilot program with 3 cruise stakeholders and 3 terminals interested in participating, and grew to 5. A lot of enthusiasm. A MOU was taken to our Board of County Commissioners, signed by Carnival, MSC, Norwegian, Royal, and Virgin Voyages to partake in this pilot program, which has now become our shore power phase 1 program. Again, it's one of the cornerstones of our net zero supply chain program, where when the ships are at berth, when they're provisioning and unloading and berthing and passengers are coming and going, the ships will be plugged in. So there'll be 0 emissions going into our community from Port Miami from those operations. With some of the robust infrastructure grants, we were able to earn a DERA grant in the amount of $2 million, and also an FDOT grant to put towards this program. Another key component of our net zero program is our rail. Several years ago, actually about 10 or 15 years ago, we partnership with the FEC, and we put in the first tracks at Port Miami. And I'll show you some of that development that was completed through the 2035 vision of the master plan. But our net zero program is going to take it even further. We're going to be adding more rail components. The highlight of the net zero program is what this map is showing, which is we'll have electric tugs, hopefully in our cargo area, which is to the south. Again, this is north for folks. So on the south end, again, is where our cargo facilities sit. So part of the net zero program is electric tugs. And then, of course, the shore power program. It's shown here as number 2, but really we're implementing shore power extensively on the cruise side, which is on the north side of the island. And then we are pursuing the purchase of more super post-Panamax electric gantry cranes, which all operate on our main wharfs here. We are also going through and we are densifying all of our cargo yards. One of the maps I showed earlier show that really this area that I'm outlining are our cargo yards. We're densifying this one first with the South Florida Container Terminal with electric rubber tire gantries. We're in the phase 2 of that program, and we're under the cone. We've got a procurement process that prohibits us from talking about it in too much detail, but it's the second phase of the ERTG program, and it's densifying the yards. It's allowing them to become automated. We've also improved the gate systems, allow them to become automated. And basically what this does, it does reduce emissions. Of course, they're electric tire gantries, but it also increases the time, actually decreases the time the trucks come and go from the port, reducing their emissions, reducing the impact on our infrastructure, and reducing the idle time. So the rail yard, another key component of the net zero program, with this expansion that's going to be undergoing, we're looking at electric locomotives as well, and then other energy sources. And I'll get into it further with the shore power program, that while we just expanded our substation, which is over here on Loomis Island, with FP&L, we did that in partnership. We still don't have enough electricity, enough power to operate shore power at all 5 terminals simultaneously. We have the capacity on port with the upgraded substation to have 3 dedicated feeders that will then switch between the 5 terminals depending on which ship is at berth, which ship is shore power ready, and how that program is being developed. So basically the shore power is for 5 terminals, and it's underway right now. We've got Virgin Voyages terminal, the Carnival terminal, Terminal F, Norwegian, which is at Bravo, Royal, which is at Alpha, and then the shared terminal that MSC is building right now. You all might have traveled on the causeway up here, heading to or coming from South Beach, and seeing that enormous structure that's being developed right now. That's a triple terminal that will simultaneously berth and operate 3 home port ships. And the difference between a home port, of course, and a port of call is that when we're home porting, which is what Port Miami is, the majority of our cruise traffic is home porting, at least 95%. That's where all the passengers embark and debark from their destination point. All the provisions come and go. Of course, all of the fuel, the trash gets unloaded, all the operations to get a ship ready to go either on its 2, 3, 4, 7, 14, 24-day cruise, however long the cruise is. So as far as the shore power, just some of the size of this equipment, this is what is called a cable management system. It's a trolley that will run up and down the apron. And these cables down here, they then connect to the ship, to its hatches that go into its electric room, and they hook up. It's quite an elaborate process where there's 6 cables. I think there's 1 neutral, and then the rest of the shore power equipment is connected through trenches back to a substation. And the substations, if you can see up here, this is a graphic of what our substations will look at Port Miami. We're going to have a substation at each one of the 5 terminals. And then again, there'll be a switch from a FP&L vault that will then direct the power to one of those substations, 3 out of 5, so we can hook up the ships, again, 3 ships simultaneously. This, I must say, this shore power program is one of our mayor's most aggressive net zero, sustainable, resilient program that has been pursued. She has been the ombudsman. She has been the leader of this program and has really pushed the port, pushed our stakeholders to all come together and really realize something that's quite unique. The scale of this has not been done at any port worldwide to date. And so again, having 5 cruise terminals with this amount of power is certainly noteworthy. Some of the infrastructure work, just a few visuals. These are all the duct banks that are going in on our aprons. These are more duct banks. They're going in on the aprons as well. These are the foundation systems that are being built for the substations on port. We see a rig here that was a directional drill rig. That was a significant improvement to doing traditional duct banks and a savings. And of course, being 420 acres, all the operations on our island having been developed since, the 1960s, there's a lot of infrastructure underground at the port that we're trying not to sever, right? There's always a little something. And so it's hard to get the scale, but this is our cable management system. This is one of 4 that will be on port. It just arrived a few days ago. We'll be lifting it off and testing it to make sure the boom in the operation works properly. But I wanted to show you this picture to show you the scale of these machines, this equipment, because it needs to service a variety of ships. All the ships have their hatches for the electrical connections to go in, their cables in different locations. The hatches are higher or lower. The ships don't all berth in the exact same configuration, so there had to be a lot of flexibility built into this system. This is the first down here of one of the first substations that's being assembled. They come in a containerized format built in Denmark, and there's all the equipment is self-contained within the containers. Of course, there's ventilation and air conditioning to keep the systems cool. There's converters. There's lots of equipment that is being installed as we speak in these containerized versions to allow the flexibility to fit on Port Miami. Again, a lot of the things that we design are focused on ensuring that we can work around them during the construction and that they work operationally with such a densely operated port. So current infrastructure that is leading us into the future, which is part of our 2035 master plan, is this large flyover. This large flyover is going to the new triple terminal with MSC. It was just completed, but so let me pause for a second and forgive me for getting kind of geeky on some of this infrastructure work, being an architect and certainly being grateful for all of the beautiful vertical construction that we're doing at the port as well. The infrastructure is exciting because it's making it all work. It's making everything come together. It's making our vertical construction and our iconic terminals seem like they're in the correct context and they work operationally, and it just makes everything come together. So geeking out on a flyover, beautiful flyover, it's open now, but it allows the cargo traffic, which you see over here, going in and out of the cargo yards. And then this is for segregated cruise traffic that will go in and out of Cruise Terminal Bravo. This is Cruise Terminal Charlie further down, but allow that traffic to cohabitate and not stranglehold either one of those operations. So a little more about the intermodal rail. We also earned a grant to expand our rail. We're expanding it by 2 rail tracks, and we're purchasing 3 new electric rubber tire gantry cranes to pick the boxes up and to set them onto the train. Additional improvements are LED lights and staging areas for the ships and whatnot. We earned a $16 million raise grant that we're using wisely to build this infrastructure. This one, again, is in partnership with the FEC. So a little bit about the performance at the port. So in context, in terms of why we need all this infrastructure, why we're spending a fair amount of funds. And I'm going to show you toward the end of this presentation the budget that we have gotten approved by the commissioner, our capital improvement program budget, which is helpful to learn where we're going. This is so that we understand why we need all of this infrastructure. Our cargo staff, the stats were never higher than during the pandemic. We did very well on the East Coast in terms of moving cargo containers and keeping the cargo flowing. We do have plans to continue for those TEUs. The TEUs is a ton equivalent unit, 20 equivalent unit ton. And that's basically 20 feet. Most of the containers are 40 feet at this point in time, but they're measured in the 20 equivalent unit terminology. And so we continue to improve our cargo. Of course, these are all of our partners in the cargo trade and the movement of these containers. Our crew statistics, as you can imagine, during the pandemic, it was tough. The port did support a program to allow the cruise ships to come into port, to perform routine maintenance, to change crew out during the pandemic. But you might have seen a lot of ships kind of at sea outside of Miami Beach. And there were images that they also were at sea near the Bahamas. So we were allowing ships to come in and to take care of the needs that the industry had at that time. But pre-pandemic, we were headed towards about a 7 million passenger count for a single calendar year. we were at 6.8 million passengers. That's reduced over the pandemic, but the fantastic news is that the industry has come back extremely robust. They've come back eager to perform. Folks who have been kind of cooped up during the pandemic are also eager to take cruises. And even though that shore power project that I just showed you is kind of tearing up the port in terms of infrastructure, everyone's still coming here. We're still working around all of the operations of getting people on and off the island. And we should be above 7 million cruise passengers for this coming year. So that's super exciting. We are the cruise capital of the world, and we're really, really thrilled to maintain that, that title. As you can see, a lot of our cruise partners are participating. We have several. We have major ones, which are Royal, Carnival, Virgin Voyages, Norwegian, and MSC. And then, of course, we have all of, many others that we are pleased to have them call Port Miami their home port. So as I mentioned before, our 2050 master plan is in progress. So this in process, and this is what we're developing. This is what will go to our commission for final approval. But we are in process of vetting it internally, vetting it with our stakeholders, and then we'll be rolling it out within the next year. However, the 2035 master plan, which was approved several years ago, has been a very good blueprint for moving the port forward. And I'd like to show you some things that were identified in the 2035 master plan that have come to fruition and that we're continuing to work on right now, and that there's plans to let more bids out in the future in terms of what that future work will look like. But again, basically the island, this is north, here's the MacArthur Causeway that heads to South Beach, here's the south, this is where we've got our cargo development, this is where we have the majority of our cruise terminals. We also have a niche cruise terminal down here, Cruise Terminal J, and we've got the headquarters of Royal Caribbean on our southwest corner. One of the main things that the master plan was identifying is the cruise plan development. Where can we add more cruise terminals, as we're a 420-acre island? We're limited. So we have to be very strategic in terms of where those additional cruise terminals will go. This is all the developed cruise terminals. The next ones came right here. This is Cruise Terminal A was designed and built by Royal Caribbean. And then this stretch right here is where MSC is building their triple terminal that you see from the causeway going to South Beach, coming or going from South Beach. Further down here, we'll get into the cargo yard development. This is further phasing of the cruise development. So looking at expanding to the east, but then also looking at some of the infill projects that we could do with the existing cruise terminals. What this didn't identify as robustly as what we implemented is that here on the west end of the port is where we've developed the Virgin Voyages cruise terminal. And then here in the center is where we've developed a Carnival expansion to Cruise Terminal F, as well as consolidated Cruise Terminal Charlie and built Cruise Terminal B, which is for Norwegian. That's the Pearl that you can see also from north and across the bay. The cargo development area, I've spoken about densifying cargo so that more boxes, more containers can come and go more efficiently. And we've been doing that along the way. The Super Post Panamax electric gantry cranes going here. We're performing a master plan right now with our seaboard partners, which are located here. And then looking at a type of commercial development. This has really come to a settlement of Royal Caribbean's development of their Skyline office campus plan, along with improvements to their existing office buildings. And if you folks follow our commission meetings. Today, a extremely significant agreement was approved by our Board of County Commissioners, which allows us to, in partnership with Royal Caribbean, assist with the development of their campus, of their Skyline campus. And up here, what we're calling Cruise Terminal G, which is the replacement of an old Cruise Terminal G with a new Cruise Terminal G, which is a design build project that's in process. But again, this morning was really a very significant time for us, having been negotiating these agreements for some time. They came to fruition. We all aligned with Royal Caribbean and with what the financial needs would be for these projects to be realized. And again, today is a good day, very good day. This is where the rail is located on port, in the vicinity of the cargo areas, so that the cargo can be brought on the top loaders and brought to the rail, loaded up with the ERTGs, and then easy access to and from the port, keep them off of the roadways, keep them out of downtown. Really a big effort to keep the truck traffic to a minimal in downtown and to pursue rail. And then, of course, the tunnel that was developed and opened in 2014. So this is our tunnel, a big partnership with FDOT to design, build, fund and operate program with our port tunnel partners. So very successful program, and does exactly what we needed to do. Is it gets the traffic off of the streets downtown, brings trucks through the tunnel, and brings them straight into the cargo area. So I mentioned earlier in the presentation that we have a proposed budget, and this is for 23-24 moving forward. We've got a proposed budget for our capital improvement program, and I wanted to share with you what it looks like. There's the link in terms of where we can find it on the port website. I don't believe it's been published yet from the county. So this is the 2023 link that you see up here. But if you reach out to Colleen or to me later on, we can share with you a link to the county website where you can see the updated and the approved Seaport capital improvement budget. And again, this is a good tool for folks who are interested in following where we're going to be going and where we're going to be investing our revenues into the island. And okay, let's keep going. So I wanted to state that when I say revenue, the port, and I'm remiss for not saying this earlier, the port is a enterprise department similar to the airport. We don't obtain funds from any taxes from the public or any fees that are levied, whether it be on goods and services and whatnot. We're completely revenue driven in our enterprise program, and so all of the funds that we have to our ability to redevelop and to support the port are revenues that we earn either, of course, from the fees that we collect through the cargo carriers, the fees from our passenger surcharges that come along with capital developments of the cruise terminals. We have stakeholders on board that are tenants, and of course grants that we do receive from both the state and the federal level. So I don't know if you'd like me to zoom in, but this is the revenues. I was going to zoom a little bit to some of the programs. Right now, if you can see in the lower left-hand corner, this is the Cruise Terminal AA and AAA program. It's now, the name's now changed to, I'm sorry, AA, but we've invested some money in the MSC terminal. It was part of the development agreement that we executed with MSC coming out of the pandemic, where we would invest in some of this terminal as the third terminal itself, the one that's further toward the east, will be utilized by a different stakeholder than MSC, and the port will earn revenue from that operation. We also have a federal inspection facility that we're planning to design and build, more gantry cranes, infrastructure improvements, which go, port wide. We've got a North Bulkhead rehabilitation program that's underway. It's under the cone of silence on the street, but that's a significant program to rehabilitate and repair our North Bulkhead, which is aging infrastructure, but to keep our cruise lines operating, to keep them healthy, to prevent any kind of disruption to that service. So we've got a very robust North Bulkhead rehabilitation program that will be coming online next year. It's in the procurement process right now. We've got the cruise campus up here, which it was funded. More boarding bridges that always support our operations. With the North Bulkhead expansion, we're going to be purchasing more boarding bridges. With the Cruise Terminal G program, more boarding bridges. MSC is purchasing boarding bridges. So it's part of our fundamental infrastructure that's needed. Standard water and sewer upgrades. We have become somewhat of our own utility on port. Container funds. So I don't want to dwell on this and bore you guys, but this is the roadmap for what we're going to be building in the future. This is our net zero cargo program down here. Port-wide security enhancements, always important. So just wanted to show you guys what that looked like. Now, currently, we also publish, and let me see if this is, here we go. If you guys can see that link, if you go to Port Miami, to our library and Port Miami anticipated budget, these are our current projects. These are primarily construction projects that we are going to be advertising and putting on the street. We do have the new Cruise Terminal G program, which we anticipate advertising that by March of 2024. That's a significant program. It has opportunities for both contractors, architects, engineers, all sorts of folks. And so that's something to be on the lookout for. It's a pretty, significant program in the high range of value. So that would be a design, build, delivery method. We also have what we're advertising. These are more construction, the LED high mast replacements, drainage improvements. I can go through these. We have ongoing, as everyone does in Miami-Dade County at this point in time, we have ongoing 30 and 40 and 50-year recertifications that keep us busy. We also have a lot of, resilient infrastructure going in, charging stations for EVs, for our own EVs. And then also the county has a program in terms of sustainability that any new parking garage that's built, that there's 10% set aside for EVs initially, and then 20% of infrastructure that's required. So you'll see a lot of those on this spreadsheet in terms of what's going on at the port currently. Similarly, we have our projected future professional services agreements. We've got our current active ones, which we can share with you. We've got general cruise terminal architectural, we've got civil, we've got program management, marine. All of those are nearly expended. So we'll be going out again soon for our marine PSA. That one you should see advertised in the next month or so. And there'll be 2 PSAs at about 4.4 million each. We're going out for another crane PSA. We will be going out for 3 architectural PSAs, which will not be solely for cruise terminals. It'll also be for other vertical construction. And I didn't even get to elaborate on it, but we do have an inland port, which some of this might go for. It's more warehouse type of improvements, warehouses and offices. But we wanted to open up these PSAs to allow for all marine type related work to be realized through these PSAs. We'll have 3 civil PSAs going out because again, we've been expanding and running through the existing PSAs, and another program management consultant PSA. that we hope to advertise in the next year. So this looks crowded. Okay, let me go back. So here's the island again. This is to the north, here to the south. This is all the cruise development, and this is the cargo development. This is a bit redundant in terms of what I've been presenting over the last half an hour or so, but just a sense of location. What I was talking about. The substation we expanded was here. MSC's terminals, the triple terminals are here. Berth 10, that is yet to be advertised. It will also be a design build project. We're developing the design criteria for a new apron, bulkhead, and then an extensive elaborated concourse along with provisioning. So that'll be coming out in the next couple of years for a design build contractor. Terminal A was completed, but this shows where our shore power substations will be housed. Terminal B, as you all may recognize, was opened in the summer of 2021. F, which is the expansion of the existing F, was opened in November of 2022, as was then Virgin Voyages, which is here. It looks back towards the American Airline Arena, was opened in February 2022. This is our new cruise terminal G that we are developing the criteria, and we'll be advertising for that design build team soon. The Royal Caribbean, which just went to our board today, their campus expansion, which is called Skyline. So that, I'm not sure if the date is 2025 at this point. It looks like it could possibly come to fruition then. We're developing all sorts of wharf improvements on the South Wharf for Seaboard, the North Bulkhead expansion I mentioned. We just completed that flyover, which is kind of cool. Traffic circles, electric gantry cranes, more berth rehab for our cargo area. And then we will be advertising a design build project for a garage in the cargo area. So that'll come out soon as well. And if you all want any additional information on this, please reach out. I wanted to do the best I could to give an overview of what Port Miami has been doing pre-pandemic, during the pandemic. Of course, I'm sure like most of you all and most of your projects, they went on during the pandemic. We had a especially challenging time with our cargo uptick with all the containers while we were densifying the cargo yards. So lots of good learning experiences during all of these times. But I just wanted to share what we have done in the past, which is kind of a flavor for what's coming in the future. We did a fair amount of bulkhead strengthening and deepening on our cargo side. If you recollect, it's to the south, where we went down 52 feet so that we could bring in the Super Post Panamax ships. That was exciting. We got the cranes over here. We opened the tunnel in 2014. We been purchasing the zero emissions ERTGs. That was the first phase that we completed in 2021. And then the FEC rail was first built in 2014. The second two tracks are going to come on board in the next 3 or 4 years. We plan to advertise the second phase as a design, build, delivery method as well. There's a trend. We find that method to work relatively well in terms of some of these larger projects. And then just to highlight some of the cruise terminals, these are the terminals that as you drive down the MacArthur Causeway to or from South Beach, they become somewhat of a promenade. I saw an article where a fashion magazine was making the analogy that it's somewhat of a runway. I like to reference it to the book Learning from Las Vegas, where each one of these facades is bigger and more beautiful and more expressive in terms of the cruise line and their image. So these have become quite the billboards for the industry, and the buildings themselves being elegant and iconic. It's really just a joy to show a few pictures of these. So this is the Royal Caribbean terminal that was opened in 2018, which I think accelerated the iconic monumental terminals that are being built at Port Miami at this point in time. Next came the Pearl of Miami, which was opened in 2021. And let me just pause. In partnership with the AIA, we do plan to highlight some of these for the industry. Colleen and I are working on scheduling something for the Virgin Voyages terminal, a tour of sorts to see the terminal, but then also to look at the art in public places that was, implemented in collaboration with the architecture. Here's the Virgin Voyages, which was opened in February of 2022. The Terminal F expansion, again, the fall of 2022. So like you all, we've been busy and it's been a blast. And then here's the one that you see under construction, which is the MSC terminal. Again, a triple capacity terminal for 3 large ships, 2 super sized ships, and 1 large ship. The one large one is at berth 10 for this to the east. The 2 big girls, which are like the Icon and the Quantum. I mean, some big ships that we see being built right now can both be berthed at the main 2 terminals. Just a quick look. This is the team that does it. We have a team of architects over here, led by a chief, Lazaro Alvarez. We have a port engineer, led by Helga Summer. We have a chief of construction, led by Eddie Yetne. We continue to recruit and to look for folks. So if anyone's interested in coming on board, we have vacancies. We have some architectural vacancies, some engineering vacancies. Well, we always have, attrition. So it's a great team. Again, I landed here about 15 years ago and didn't want to go anywhere else. And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Open it up to questions.
This is great. Plus, you got a recruiting statement in. That's awesome. You did everything.
You got to do it.
I'm just dumbfounded the amount of construction and building and how far ahead you guys are looking with this port. It's just going to be fabulous. And as Christina mentioned, we're going to be putting together a series of tours to explore the port a little bit more as we go along, but they will be very limited, and there'll be hard head tours, even though some of the buildings are already finished. But if you have any questions, let us know, or put them in the chat there and we'll get to them right away. If does anyone have any questions? Okay.
Elizabeth, this is Dawn Gunter with Gensler, if you can hear me.
Yes.
What do you give credit for the visionary nature of the port? I mean, it's really inspiring. I'm on Belle Isle, so I look back at the port and, just to think that you're going to go to the full electric as opposed to, the diesel engines running is really inspiring. But there's so many things that you're doing that is visionary. What's the genesis of that, and how do you continue with that visionary stance?
So it's really it's a true synergy with the community, with our leadership, with our mayor and our commission, with the stakeholders. As I mentioned, the Royal Caribbean cruise terminal was something that I think expedited just the quality of the architecture that was being developed. And not that it wasn't wonderful beforehand, it just kind of took it up another notch. And then it just pulled everyone along. I mean, just the economic growth that the port is able to contribute to the community, and then vice versa. It's again, almost anyone who comes to work and to work here as a consultant or work here as an employee, you don't want to leave. It's really a terrific environment. It's one that's open to the inland port ideas, for example, that's open to the tunnel ideas, it's open to, and I did focus a bit on shore power, but really not as much as I do every day, because it is so far reaching regarding that vision, but regarding the effort to get it done. And it really did, it took our leadership, and then it took the innovation and ingenuity of the industry to help us research it, because it's never been done at this scale, never been done at this pace. I had the pleasure of going over to some of the fabrication sites in Denmark and in Italy to see the equipment being fabricated, which we do to stay on top of things. But I really think and it's Miami, right? It's Miami. Thank you for your question.
Someone had a question about the slideshow. This program was recorded, so I'm going to put a link. Is that okay, Elizabeth, if I put a link on our AIA
Yes.
Website so people can link through to the recording?
Yes.
Okay.
For asking.
I was thinking that might be easier than the slides, because remember we had a little trouble because it was such a big file moving it around, or do you think
Whatever you prefer.
we'll figure it out? Any more questions or comments from anybody? Okay. Look for, I'm sorry?
Yes, please reach out. There's just there's so many details, and there's so many good that the port has and wants to share.
I see a question here. It says there have been some suggestions to make Port Miami an exclusive cruise port and moving the cargo to Port Everglades. Is that a viable option?
I haven't heard that in terms of it being a viable option. From my experience over the last 15 years, and actually, of course, I understand the history in terms of the Carmen Luneta days and just the viability of the port. It was paramount financially for the port to have cargo during the pandemic, for us to have that diversity in our revenue generation. Again, we're an enterprise department. To compare it to some others, which I'm not going to name names, some others that are more cruise centric, they had a hard time. They laid off people, and we all know when you lay off people, number one, no one wants to do that, but then number two, you can't get them back, and you lose a lot of institutional knowledge. Being diversified, and we're diversified in many ways. The cargo, we've got cargo going to Asia, we've got cargo going through the Panama Canal. We have the north-south corridor to the Caribbean. So just having all of that diversification is really what kept us healthy during tough times.
Here's another question that we missed. It says, are the new ships being built by the cruise lines adaptable to the shore power mechanism?
Yes, and yes. They specifically, we have a lineup of shore power ready ships. And then some of the lines have been working and expediting the retrofitting of their ships to allow them to be shore power ready. So when we start commissioning these ships, if they haven't been commissioned before for shore power, it'll take 2 or 3 kind of berths an operation, which is the day long, and then they come in the following week. So 2 or 3, 4 attempts to do that if they haven't been commissioned at another port. If they've already been commissioned at another port, they need to be simply commissioned, and typically just takes 1 day at Port Miami. But yeah, there's a huge push for the industry to retrofit their ships, and they're doing so. We're investing a lot of money, and the cruise lines are 100% in support of this. So they're also investing money in retrofitting their ships.
Well, that's all the questions I have. I'm just scrolling through the rest of them. Yeah, that's all I have right now. So thank you, everybody. Any last words, Elizabeth?
No, I want to thank you all for allowing me to present. Again, I apologize if it gets too infrastructure-y. I want my heartfelt prayers to go out to Cheryl. Without her, I wouldn't be here presenting this to you. I mean, she really made this happen, and I look forward to more presentations, and to opening up the port to other things.
Thank you so much. And everybody, please look for our next, we haven't nailed down a date yet, but looks for the next segment in this series of programs on Port Miami. Thank you, Elizabeth. This has been wonderful. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it too, you guys. Thank you for your time, for your questions.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.